Greetings, lore seekers, and welcome back to the Lore Lord. Today we're diving into the galleries of perhaps the most unique and strangely sympathetic character in all of Warhammer 40,000, Trazyn the Infinite, Overlord of the Nihilak dynasty, and the galaxy's most obsessive collector. In a universe defined by endless war, fanatical devotion, and grim darkness, Trazyn stands apart as something almost relatable. Here is an immortal being with infinite time and vast resources who has chosen to spend eternity pursuing what might be the most human of obsessions, collecting. But this is no mere hobby. This is collecting elevated to an art form, a science, and quite possibly a form of madness that spans millions of years. Trazyn represents something fascinating in the Necron hierarchy, a being who has transcended the typical goals of conquest and domination to pursue something more subtle and, in its own way, more ambitious. He seeks not to rule the galaxy, but to preserve it, to catalogue every significant moment and artifact for posterity. He is simultaneously the galaxy's greatest historian and its most prolific thief. Today we'll explore the complete story of Trazyn the Infinite, from his origins as a flesh and blood Necron tier noble, to his current status as the master of the prismatic galleries, where he houses the most comprehensive collection of galactic artifacts ever assembled. We'll examine his methods, his motivations, and most importantly, we'll catalogue some of his most prized and outrageous acquisitions. This is the story of the archaeovist, the infinite collector, the being who has turned grave robbing into high art, and who may be the only creature in the galaxy who truly understands the value of what the universe is losing in its endless wars. Origins of the Collector. To understand Trazyn the Infinite, we must first understand what he was before the Great Sleep transformed him into living metal. In the final days of the Necron tier civilization, Trazyn held the position of archaeovist, essentially the keeper of cultural memory and historical records for the Nihilak dynasty. Even in his mortal form, Trazyn was obsessed with preservation and documentation. The Necron tier were a people haunted by their own mortality, cursed with short lives on a radiation-blasted homeworld. For them, the preservation of knowledge and culture was not just academic interest, but existential necessity. They had to record everything, because they knew they wouldn't live long enough to pass it on naturally. Trazyn excelled in this role, developing increasingly sophisticated methods for cataloguing and preserving artifacts, documents, and even living specimens. His collections during this period were legendary even among his own people, containing everything from ancient texts to preserved specimens of extinct species. When the Citan offered the Necron tier the gift of immortality through biotransference, Trazyn was among the first to embrace the transformation. Unlike many of his peers who saw it primarily as an escape from mortality, Trazyn recognized it as the ultimate tool for his true passion, infinite time to build the perfect collection. The process of biotransference enhanced Trazyn's already considerable abilities. His new mechanical form gave him perfect memory, unlimited lifespan, and the ability to interact with the most dangerous artifacts without fear of contamination, corruption, or death. He could now collect things that would destroy mortal beings simply by proximity. But perhaps most importantly, the transformation freed him from the political and social obligations that had limited his collecting activities as a mortal noble. As an immortal Necron Overlord, he could pursue his passion without concern for social approval, resource limitations, or the opinions of his peers. Over the millions of years since his awakening, Trazyn has developed what might be called a philosophy of collecting that goes far beyond mere acquisition. He sees himself as performing a vital service to the universe, preserving the memory and achievements of civilizations that would otherwise be lost to time and war. This philosophy drives him to collect not just valuable or beautiful objects, but historically significant ones. He seeks to capture moments, to preserve the essence of civilizations at their peak, and to maintain a record of what the galaxy has accomplished, even as it tears itself apart in endless conflict. In Trazyn's view, he is not stealing, he is curating. He is not destroying, he is preserving. And while others might see his actions as the whims of an immortal madman, he sees them as the highest form of scholarship and cultural preservation. The prismatic galleries, a museum of eternity. Trazyn's personal domain, the prismatic galleries, represents one of the most extraordinary constructions in the galaxy. Built within his tomb world of Solemnus, the galleries stretch for kilometers in every direction, containing millions of exhibits arranged according to complex taxonomies that only Trazyn himself fully understands. The galleries themselves are marvels of Necron technology and artistry. Each hall is perfectly climate-controlled and temporally stabilized, ensuring that organic specimens remain in perfect stasis, and that even the most delicate artifacts suffer no degradation over time. The lighting is precisely calibrated to showcase each exhibit to its best advantage, while sophisticated security systems ensure that nothing can be damaged or stolen. But the true wonder of the prismatic galleries lies not in their architecture, but in their contents. Here, arranged with obsessive precision, is the greatest collection of galactic artifacts ever assembled. Entire civilizations are represented by single, perfect specimens. Pivotal moments in galactic history are preserved in crystalline, suspension fields. Trazyn's approach to organizing his collection reflects both his scholarly background and his obsessive personality. The galleries are arranged according to multiple overlapping systems: chronological, taxonomical, aesthetic, and what Trazyn calls narrative significance. Each exhibit is meticulously labeled with information about its origin, acquisition date, historical significance, and relationship to other items in the collection. Trazyn maintains detailed records of every piece, including acquisition notes that often read more like academic papers than inventory lists. The scale of the cataloging effort is staggering. Trazyn has been collecting for over 60 million years, and his record-keeping has never faltered. He knows the precise location and condition of every item in his vast collection, from the grandest dioramas to the smallest trinkets. Perhaps the most controversial aspect of Trazyn's collection is his practice of collecting living beings. Unlike his inanimate artifacts, these specimens are kept in temporal stasis fields that preserve them at the exact moment of acquisition, complete with their thoughts, emotions, and memories. These living exhibits range from common examples of various species to legendary heroes and villains. Trazyn's justification for this practice is that living beings are often the most important artifacts of their civilizations. They embody the culture, knowledge, and achievements of their people in ways that mere objects cannot. From an academic standpoint, Trazyn's living collection is invaluable. These preserved beings represent perfect examples of their species and cultures at specific points in time, uncontaminated by later developments or degradation. They are living museums of galactic diversity. From a moral standpoint, the practice is deeply disturbing. These are sentient beings, many of them taken without consent and preserved against their will. They exist in a state of eternal suspension, neither truly alive nor dead, forever trapped in Trazyn's galleries. Methods and motivations. Trazyn's collecting methods have evolved over the millennia into a sophisticated art form that combines military strategy, advanced technology, and what can only be described as supernatural patience. His approach to acquiring new specimens varies depending on the nature and rarity of the target. For common artifacts or specimens, Trazyn often employs straightforward military action. His Necron forces will simply overwhelm opposition and claim whatever has caught his interest. These operations are typically swift and efficient, designed to minimize damage to the target while eliminating any resistance. For more unique or well-defended prizes, Trazyn employs considerably more subtlety. He is a master of infiltration, capable of replacing key figures with programmed constructs while spiriting away the originals. His ability to transfer his consciousness between different mechanical bodies makes him nearly impossible to permanently stop or kill. Perhaps most impressively, Trazyn has developed the ability to manipulate events across vast spans of time and space to create opportunities for acquisition. He has been known to influence the course of entire wars, simply to position himself to collect specific individuals or artifacts at crucial moments. One of Trazyn's greatest advantages as a collector is his infinite patience. Unlike mortal collectors who must work within the constraints of limited lifespans, Trazyn can wait millennia for the perfect opportunity to acquire a desired piece. This patience manifests in several ways. Sometimes Trazyn will allow civilizations to develop for thousands of years before collecting their greatest achievements at their cultural peak. Other times he will wait for specific individuals to reach moments of historical significance before adding them to his collection. Perhaps most remarkably, Trazyn has been known to collect potential specimens, individuals who haven't yet achieved greatness, but whom he predicts will become historically significant. His track record for these predictions is eerily accurate, suggesting an understanding of historical patterns that borders on prescience. What drives Trazyn's collecting is not greed or simple acquisitiveness, but genuine scholarly passion. He sees himself as the galaxy's ultimate historian and anthropologist, preserving knowledge and culture that would otherwise be lost to time and war. This scholarly approach is evident in how he treats his collection. Unlike a mere hoarder, Trazyn studies his acquisitions extensively, learning everything he can about their origins, significance, and relationships to other artifacts. His knowledge of galactic history and culture is probably unmatched by any living being. Trazyn has even been known to loan pieces from his collection to other scholars and institutions when he believes it serves the cause of knowledge. These loans come with strict conditions and are carefully monitored, but they demonstrate that his ultimate goal is preservation and understanding, rather than simple possession. Trazyn's greatest acquisitions, the ultimate collection. Military specimens and warriors. One of Trazyn's most famous military acquisitions is his diorama of the final moments of Lord Castellan Ursarkar Creed during the 13th Black Crusade. The exhibit captures Creed and his command staff in the exact moment they realized their position was hopeless, preserving not just their physical forms, but their expressions of defiant courage in the face of certain death. During the Praetorian campaign, Trazyn acquired an entire regiment of the renowned 24th Praetorian Guard at the moment of their greatest victory. The exhibit shows 3,000 soldiers in perfect formation, their banners flying and their weapons gleaming, frozen at the pinnacle of imperial military pageantry. Perhaps most controversially, Trazyn's collection includes what he claims is an original Space Marine from the Great Crusade era, complete with pre-heresy armor and weaponry. The specimen is labeled as being from the Lunar Wolves Legion, though whether this is authentic or an elaborate fake remains hotly debated by Imperial scholars who have seen the exhibit. One of Trazyn's most dangerous acquisitions is a champion of Khorne, captured at the moment of his greatest rage and bloodlust. The exhibit required special containment fields to prevent chaos corruption from spreading through the galleries. Trazyn considers it one of his finest examples of dangerous beauty. Trazyn's collection includes what appears to be a Phoenix Lord, though which one remains unclear as the specimen is displayed without identifying markers. The acquisition of this exhibit reportedly required Trazyn to orchestrate an elaborate deception involving 3 different craft worlds, and took over 2 centuries to complete. Civilian and cultural specimens. One of Trazyn's most poignant exhibits is a complete imperial family from Cadia, parents, children, and grandparents, captured during a moment of celebration at a harvest festival. The display is titled Imperial Joy, Uncontaminated, and represents Trazyn's attempt to preserve human happiness in its purest form. Trazyn possesses an entire Tau bonding ceremony, complete with fire warriors, support staff, and cultural artifacts. The exhibit was acquired during the Damocles Crusade and represents one of the most complete examples of Tau military culture in any collection. In what may be his most disturbing civilian exhibit, Trazyn has preserved an entire Gene Stealer cult at the exact moment they realized their true nature and purpose. The expressions of horror, betrayal, and dawning understanding on their faces make this one of his most psychologically complex displays. Trazyn's collection includes a complete orc workshop with the mech boy and his assistants frozen in the act of building what appears to be some form of impossible vehicle. Trazyn notes in his catalogue that orc technology fascinates him precisely because it shouldn't work, but does. One of his most dangerous exhibits shows a chaos cult at the moment of their successful summoning ritual, with a minor demon materializing in their midst. The entire exhibit exists within multiple containment fields and is accessible only to Trazyn himself. Historical artifacts and weapons. Trazyn possesses what he claims is an original Volkite culverin from the Great Crusade era, complete with its original ammunition and maintenance kit. The weapon is displayed alongside detailed notes about its construction and the technology required to manufacture such devices. His collection includes the ceremonial crown of a human world that was destroyed during the Age of Strife. The crown is made from materials that no longer exist in the galaxy, making it literally irreplaceable. Trazyn acquired it moments before the world's final destruction. Perhaps his most valuable single artifact is what appears to be an authentic, standard template construct fragment containing the complete specifications for some form of terraforming device. The fragment is displayed in its own sealed gallery with extensive security measures. Trazyn's collection includes several pieces of authentic, pre-fall Eldar art, acquired through methods he has never fully explained. These pieces are priceless examples of Eldar culture at its absolute peak, before the birth of Slaanesh destroyed their civilization. In perhaps his most dangerous acquisition, Trazyn possesses a fragment of a Citan that he has somehow safely contained and neutralized. The exhibit is stored in the deepest vault of the galleries and represents one of the few successful captures of Citan material by any Necron dynasty. Unique and impossible items. Through means that defy explanation, Trazyn has somehow captured and contained a small warp storm in a crystalline matrix. The storm continues to rage within its container, providing a unique window into the nature of chaos itself. The exhibit is kept in a null-field chamber to prevent corruption. One of Trazyn's most poetic exhibits is a sound crystal containing the final words of the last speaker of an extinct alien language. The crystal plays continuously in a sealed chamber, preserving not just the words but the emotion and meaning behind them. In what may be his most theoretically impossible acquisition, Trazyn claims to possess a stable temporal paradox, an event that both happened and didn't happen simultaneously. The exhibit exists in a special temporal containment field and can only be observed indirectly through instruments. Trazyn's most controversial human artifact is what he claims is a toy belonging to the Emperor during his childhood, acquired through temporal manipulation during some unspecified period in Terra's history. The authenticity of this claim has never been verified, but the artifact radiates a subtle psychic energy that defies analysis. In what may be his most philosophical exhibit, Trazyn has preserved what he labels as the galaxy's last hope. Though what exactly this consists of is unclear even from his detailed catalogue notes, the exhibit exists in its own sealed chamber and has never been shown to any other being. Living Legends and Heroes. An original Thunder Warrior. Trazyn's collection allegedly includes one of the original Thunder Warriors from the Unification Wars on Terra. If authentic, this would be the only surviving example of the Emperor's first generation of enhanced warriors, preserved at the moment of some unknown battle. The greatest orator of Macragge. His collection includes a civilian from Macragge who was considered the greatest public speaker of his generation, captured in the middle of delivering what Trazyn notes was the most perfect speech ever given by a human being. A Sister of Silence at full power. One of Trazyn's most unusual acquisitions is a Sister of Silence captured at the moment she successfully banished a greater demon through her null field abilities. The exhibit demonstrates the peak capability of anti-psycho warfare and required special containment to preserve the null field effect. The perfect Imperial Guard officer. Trazyn possesses what he considers the most exemplary Imperial Guard officer ever produced, a colonel from the Mordian Iron Guard, captured at the moment of leading the perfect military charge. Every aspect of the officer's posture, expression, and equipment represents Imperial military excellence. A Space Marine. Chaplain's perfect sermon. His collection includes a Blood Angels chaplain frozen in the middle of delivering what Trazyn catalogued as the most inspiring oration in Imperial military history. The chaplain's words apparently rallied an entire company from certain defeat to glorious victory. The Infinite's greatest heists. One of Trazyn's most audacious acquisitions occurred during the final days of Cardia, while the planet was literally breaking apart under the assault of the 13th Black Crusade. Trazyn managed to infiltrate the deepest bunkers of the planet's command structure and acquire several key figures, including what he claims is Lord Castellan Creed himself. The operation required Trazyn to coordinate with multiple factions, manipulate chaos forces, and execute precision temporal manipulations, while reality itself was collapsing around him. The fact that he succeeded in making any acquisitions during such chaos represents one of his finest achievements as a collector. During the Damocles Gulf Crusade, Trazyn orchestrated an elaborate deception that lasted over a decade. He systematically replaced key Imperial and Tau commanders with mechanical duplicates, while spiriting away the originals for his collection. The replacements were so perfect that neither side realized what had happened until long after the conflict ended. Some historians believe that several major tactical decisions during the campaign were actually made by Trazyn's constructs, meaning he effectively influenced the course of an entire crusade for the sake of his collecting. Perhaps Trazyn's most complex operation involved the Third War for Armageddon, where he managed to acquire specimens from all major factions involved in the conflict. The operation required him to maintain multiple identities, coordinate with Orc forces, infiltrate Imperial command structures, and even negotiate temporary truces with Chaos forces. The crowning achievement of this operation was his acquisition of what he claims is Gazukul Mag Uruk Thraka himself, though this claim remains disputed as Gazukul continues to appear in other conflicts. Whether Trazyn possesses the real war boss or an incredibly sophisticated duplicate remains one of the great mysteries of his collection. When Hive Fleet Behemoth approached Imperial space, Trazyn saw an opportunity to acquire specimens of the galaxy's most perfect biological weapons. His operation to collect Tyranid specimens required him to infiltrate a Hive fleet, something that should have been impossible for any non-Tyranid entity. Through methods he has never fully explained, Trazyn managed to acquire specimens of virtually every Tyranid bioform, including what he claims are the neural patterns of several Hive tyrants. The operation apparently required him to temporarily interface with the hive mind itself, an achievement that should have been fatal to any non-Tyranid consciousness. Relationships and rivalries. Trazyn's relationship with other Necron Overlords is complex and often strained. Many of his peers view his collecting obsession as an undignified distraction from more important concerns like conquest, revenge against the living, or the restoration of Necron dominance. Overlords like Imhotep the Storm Lord see Trazyn as wasting his considerable abilities on frivolous pursuits when he could be contributing to more traditional Necron goals. This has led to several conflicts where other dynasties have attempted to force Trazyn to focus on military campaigns rather than collecting expeditions. However, Trazyn's unique skills and vast knowledge make him valuable enough that even his critics are reluctant to move against him directly. His information about enemy capabilities, gained through his collecting activities, has proven crucial in several major Necron operations. Zarek, the Silent King, represents perhaps the most significant relationship in Trazyn's current existence. As the supreme ruler of the Necron race, the Silent King has the authority to command Trazyn's obedience, but their relationship is more complex than simple hierarchy. The Silent King recognizes the value of Trazyn's collection as a repository of galactic knowledge and culture. In many ways, Trazyn's archives represent the most complete record of what the Necrons are fighting to reclaim or destroy. This makes him simultaneously invaluable and potentially dangerous. Their interactions are characterized by mutual respect and subtle tension. The Silent King tolerates Trazyn's eccentricities because of his usefulness, while Trazyn serves the Silent King's broader goals while pursuing his own collecting agenda. Perhaps no relationship defines Trazyn more than his ongoing rivalry with Orican the Diviner, the Necron's greatest chronomancer and prophet. Their conflict has lasted for millions of years and shows no signs of resolution. The rivalry began over a simple scholarly disagreement about the dating of certain historical events, but has evolved into a complex game of temporal manipulation, theft, counter-theft, and elaborate pranks that span centuries. Each constantly attempts to outmaneuver the other, leading to increasingly elaborate schemes and counter-schemes. What makes their rivalry fascinating is that it's fundamentally academic in nature. Neither seeks to destroy the other. They're too valuable as opponents. Instead, they engage in a perpetual contest of wits that has become one of the most enduring relationships in Necron society. Among Imperial scholars and historians who have become aware of Trazyn's collection, the response is typically a mixture of horror and envy. His methods are clearly morally reprehensible, but the scholarly value of his collection is undeniable. Several Inquisitors and Margos have attempted to negotiate with Trazyn for access to specific artifacts or information. These negotiations are always tense and usually unsuccessful, but they demonstrate that even imperial authorities recognize the value of what he has preserved. Some scholars have speculated that Trazyn's collection may be humanity's best hope of recovering lost knowledge from the dark age of technology. The irony that this knowledge is held by a Xenos collector is not lost on imperial philosophers. The philosophy of infinite collection. Trazyn's collecting philosophy raises fundamental questions about the nature of ownership, preservation, and cultural heritage. From his perspective, he is performing a vital service by preserving artifacts and specimens that would otherwise be lost to war, decay, or simple neglect. His argument is that temporary inconvenience to individuals is justified by the eternal preservation of their achievements and culture. A warrior captured at the moment of greatest glory becomes a permanent testament to their civilization's martial prowess. An artist preserved at the peak of creativity represents their culture's aesthetic achievements for all time. Critics argue that this is simply elaborate justification for theft and kidnapping. The beings in his collection didn't consent to preservation, and their permanent captivity serves Trazyn's interests rather than any higher purpose. One of the most interesting aspects of Trazyn's philosophy is how his immortality shapes his understanding of value and significance. For a being who has lived for millions of years and will continue to exist indefinitely, individual lifespans become almost insignificant statistical variations. This perspective allows Trazyn to justify actions that would be unthinkable to mortal beings. The temporary suffering of individuals becomes negligible compared to the eternal value of preservation. Present-day political concerns become irrelevant compared to historical significance. However, this same immortal perspective also drives his genuine appreciation for the achievements of mortal civilizations. Unlike beings who dismiss lesser races, Trazyn understands that mortality often drives creativity and achievement in ways that immortality cannot. Trazyn sees himself as bearing a unique responsibility as the galaxy's only truly comprehensive historian. In his view, he is the only being with the combination of resources, knowledge, and longevity necessary to properly preserve galactic culture and history. This sense of responsibility drives much of his behavior. He genuinely believes that without his efforts, the galaxy's greatest achievements would be lost forever. Wars destroy art, civilizations fall and are forgotten, and even space marines with enhanced memories eventually die or become corrupted. Only Trazyn, with his perfect mechanical memory and unlimited lifespan, can serve as the galaxy's eternal curator. From his perspective, this is not a privilege, but a burden. He alone must make the difficult decisions about what deserves preservation and what can be allowed to fade into obscurity. The Infinite's impact on the galaxy. While Trazyn sees his collecting as a purely academic pursuit, his activities have had significant impact on galactic events. His replacement of key figures with mechanical duplicates has influenced the outcomes of battles, negotiations, and political decisions across the galaxy. Some historians believe that several major historical events were directly influenced by Trazyn's interventions. Military campaigns have been won or lost based on decisions made by his duplicates. Diplomatic negotiations have succeeded or failed due to his manipulations, and entire civilizations may have developed differently because of his collecting activities. Perhaps most significantly, Trazyn's preservation of certain individuals and artifacts has created temporal paradoxes and causal loops that continue to influence events millions of years later. His collection exists partially outside normal time, creating a stable repository of what was that can influence what will be. Despite the questionable methods used to create it, Trazyn's collection represents the most comprehensive repository of galactic knowledge and culture in existence. His archives contain information about lost technologies, extinct civilizations, and historical events that exists nowhere else. This makes Trazyn potentially one of the most valuable beings in the galaxy, regardless of one's opinion of his methods. The knowledge he has preserved could revolutionize Imperial technology, provide crucial intelligence about enemy capabilities, or reveal historical truths that could reshape galactic politics. Several factions have recognized this and have attempted to negotiate access to Trazyn's collection. These negotiations are always complex and fraught with danger, but they demonstrate that even his enemies acknowledge the value of what he has preserved. Trazyn's existence poses fundamental moral questions about the relationship between individual rights and collective benefit. His collection undoubtedly serves the cause of knowledge and historical preservation, but it comes at the cost of individual freedom and dignity. Is the preservation of culture and knowledge worth the sacrifice of individual autonomy? Does the eternal benefit to civilization justify temporary harm to individuals? These questions become even more complex when considering Trazyn's immortal perspective and the genuine scholarly value of his work. The answers to these questions may ultimately determine how history judges Trazyn the Infinite, as a villain who kidnapped innocents for his personal gain amusement, or as a scholar who made difficult sacrifices to preserve the galaxy's heritage for future generations. The current era, the Infinite's modern activities. The opening of the Great Rift and the beginning of the era Indomitus has created unprecedented opportunities for Trazyn's collecting activities. The massive disruptions to galactic civilization have exposed artifacts and specimens that had been hidden for millennia, while the chaos of the current era makes his infiltration and acquisition activities easier than ever. Trazyn has been particularly active in collecting specimens related to the return of Robout Guilliman and the Indomitus Crusade. His collection now includes what he claims are Primaris space marines, representatives of the new Imperial technology, and artifacts from the mysterious source of Guilliman's restoration. The current era has also seen Trazyn make some of his most audacious acquisitions, including specimens from the ongoing Tyrannid invasions and artifacts from the various chaos incursions that have followed the Rift's opening. His ability to operate in the current chaotic conditions has proven that his collecting skills remain as sharp as ever. The changed galactic landscape has also created new relationships for Trazyn. His rivalry with Oricon has intensified as both seek to acquire specimens related to the current crisis, while his interactions with other Necron lords have become more complex as the Silent King's return has reorganized Necron priorities. Perhaps most interestingly, Trazyn has begun to interact more directly with representatives of other factions. His negotiations with Imperial authorities have become more frequent, while his activities have brought him into contact with Eldar Farseers, Tau commanders, and even Chaos Lords who seek access to his collection. These interactions suggest that Trazyn's role in galactic affairs may be evolving from passive collector to active participant in the great conflicts of the era. Whether this represents a fundamental change in his priorities or simply an adaptation of his collecting methods to new circumstances remains to be seen. As the 42nd millennium dawns, Trazyn's collection continues to grow and evolve. His recent acquisitions suggest an increasing focus on specimens that represent the galaxy's potential future rather than just its past. He seems to be collecting not just history, but destiny itself. This evolution in his collecting philosophy may reflect his growing understanding that the current era represents a fundamental turning point in galactic history. The return of Primarchs, the opening of the Great Rift, and the various existential threats facing all civilizations may be creating a new type of historical moment that requires new approaches to preservation. Whether Trazyn's collection will ultimately serve as a monument to a galaxy that was, or as a foundation for a galaxy that might be, remains one of the great questions of the current era. Conclusion: the eternal curator. Fellow lore seekers, as we conclude this comprehensive examination of Trazyn the Infinite, we're left with one of the most paradoxical figures in all of Warhammer 40,000. Here is a being who commits acts that are clearly morally wrong in service of goals that are genuinely admirable. He steals in order to preserve, kidnaps in order to honor, and violates individual rights in service of collective memory. Trazyn represents something unique in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, a character whose motivations are genuinely scholarly and whose methods, while questionable, serve purposes that transcend simple self-interest. He is simultaneously villain and hero, thief and curator, destroyer and preserver. Perhaps the most important lesson we can draw from Trazyn's story is the recognition of memory's value in a universe that seems determined to forget its own achievements. In a galaxy where entire civilizations rise and fall within a few millennia, where knowledge is lost faster than it can be gained, and where war destroys more than it creates, the role of the historian becomes crucial. Trazyn's collection, for all its moral ambiguity, serves as a reminder that the galaxy has achieved greatness in the past and retains the potential for greatness in the future. His preservation of moments of courage, creativity, and achievement provides a counter-narrative to the standard 40K themes of decline and decay. In many ways, Trazyn represents what we might become if we had infinite time and resources to pursue our passions. His obsessive dedication to his collection reflects a very human drive taken to its logical extreme. He is what every collector, every scholar, every historian might become given enough time and power. This makes him both inspiring and cautionary. His dedication to preservation and knowledge is admirable, but his methods remind us that the pursuit of any goal, no matter how noble, can lead to moral compromises that undermine the very values we seek to preserve. As Trazyn continues his eternal collecting in the current era, his legacy remains complex and contested. To some, he is a villain who must be stopped. To others, he is a valuable repository of knowledge that must be preserved. To still others, he is simply a curiosity, an ancient being pursuing incomprehensible goals through inexplicable methods. But perhaps the most appropriate way to understand Trazyn is as the galaxy's memory made manifest. He is the collective unconscious of galactic civilization, preserving not just what was, but what could have been, and what might yet be. In a universe that seems determined to destroy itself, he stands as proof that some things are worth preserving, even at great cost. The story of Trazyn the Infinite reminds us that, in the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, someone must still remember what we were fighting for in the first place. That someone, for better or worse, appears to be an immortal mechanical archaeologist with an obsession for collecting and a very flexible approach to consent. Thank you for joining the Lore Lord for this deep dive into the prismatic galleries and the mind of Trazyn the Infinite. His collection represents both the best and worst of galactic civilization, our greatest achievements preserved through our most questionable methods. What do you think of Trazyn's methods? Is his preservation of galactic culture worth the moral costs, or does his kidnapping of sentient beings cross lines that can never be justified? And which of his acquisitions do you find most fascinating or most disturbing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you have theories about what else might be hidden in the deepest vaults of the prismatic galleries? What would you want to see in Trazyn's collection? And what would be too morally questionable even for the infinite collector? If you enjoyed this comprehensive catalogue of the galaxy's greatest collection, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the characters and mysteries that make Warhammer 40,000 so compelling. Hit that notification bell to stay updated on all the latest lore explorations, and remember, in a universe where everything is destined to be forgotten, sometimes the greatest service is simply to remember. This is the Lore Lord, signing off from the prismatic galleries of Solemnus. Keep seeking the lore, keep questioning what preservation means, and remember, some collections are worth more than the sum of their parts, even when each part was acquired through questionable means.